and there's been a lot of progress that we've had there. Obviously, the completing of our staff. I think it's a very hardworking staff that understands exactly what it's going to take for us to compete in the AFC North, and also as we compete outside of our division. I was able to obviously hire some people that I knew very well that was with me before, and to hire some guys from across the National Football League that has a ton of experience. And I think when I hired them and we talked about what the expectation was, we really sat down and really spent some time. And I know on offense, we really want to be dynamic and innovative. On defense, what I said to Ray Horton is we want to be suffocating. And in order to do that, we know that there's some places that we need to improve on our football team. And the special teams, I told Chris Tabor, we want to be second to none, because I think he's one of the best special team coaches in football. And so we all understand our challenge as coaches is to get our football team to really buy into our process and how we want to do things as we continue to move forward. And we're really excited about this opportunity. Also, I think it was very important that our personnel group and our coaching staff have a chance to spend a lot of time together. We were able to bridge that gap, and obviously we'll really sit down and talk about the processes that we want to go through to be able to put Cleveland Brown players on our team as we move forward. And those guys have been outstanding. I think the dialogue between our coaches and our personnel department has just been outstanding. And then I think of Sashi and Paul DePodesta and Andrew Berry, and I knew that those guys were very bright and very strategic thinkers. But on top of that, when you look at the group, they're also about using every resource that we have at our disposal to make better decisions for our football team. And then I go to our scouting department, which I've had a personal opportunity to spend a lot of time with, and they've also spent a lot of time with our coaches as well. Then you think through, we have some guys that have been in the National Football League a long time within our scouting department, who have done it at a very high level. And I think what was really important is that they want input from our coaches. And I think that has really worked out extremely well, because we had to bridge all these gaps before we ever stepped foot here in Indy, because we want to make sure what kind of player that we're looking for as we start to move forward. And those guys have been outstanding. A lot of those guys are well-traveled. Like I said, they've been around the National Football League. So again, it's another collaborative effort that we have in our building. And we're going to do everything we can to be innovative. But we also understand, as we think through it, there's some things that we're going to have to do the normal way. But if there's something that we can change and do differently than what we've done in the past, we're open to doing that. The saying of, well, that's just the way you do it to do it. We want to see if we can challenge that a little bit. And I think we have the opportunity to do that. When I look at us, obviously the draft is going to be very important for our football team. I think to build a sustainable team, it's going to start in the draft room. We're going to have to draft some really good football players in order to put on our team now to get us where we need to be. But we also understand in free agency, we'll be very thoughtful, about how we go about that process as well, because we'll try to supplement our team as much as we can that way. But we'll be very disciplined as we go through that, because I think our future is in drafting players to our football team. But again, as I said earlier, the challenge will be our staff doing a real good job of making sure that we get our football players better, that we create the right environment for them to be all they can be, and that we challenge them to be the best that they can be. And I'm very excited about that opportunity. When I think of specifics of what we're looking for in players, and obviously I'm looking for high character guys. And I want guys that have high football character on this football team. But that being said, we're also looking for some people that are tough. Guys that have passion for the game of football, because we all know it's a very tough game. So we're also looking for those kind of people too as we go through the process. And I know everybody talks about our culture and what we need to do. And again, I think it's about team. I think what I want our players to buy into is that we're going to be a football team that will be accountable to each other. And we all know accountability goes both ways. Then on top of that, that we'll be a group that's hardworking. That we'll have some grit, that we'll be physically and mentally tough and be resilient. And I think if we go about it that way and we change the mindset of what we've been, then I think we have a chance to do something that's really special. Again, how fast that's going to happen, I don't have that blueprint, but I know one thing: no one's going to work harder at it than myself, our coaching staff, and the organization. And I think I have one of the best support systems ever. You know, when I talk about Jimmy and Dee and their opportunity, the opportunity that they gave me, again, I can't tell you enough how they've been with me over this month and a half. They've been outstanding. I know all of you say, well, Hugh, you haven't played a football game yet. I get that. But at the same time, it has to start someplace, and it has to start with support. And they've done a great job of supporting me.
When you come to love somebody at number 2,
when I come to what?
When the franchise comes to love somebody at number 2, what will the concern level be that somebody else feels the same about him and works to get to number 1, considering particularly they're not moving forward?
Well, I think that's not, you know, as we cross that bridge, we'll be okay. Because again, I think you guys all know how you stack your board. And what's going to be important is that you take the best player that's available. And how that all unfolds, you know, that's gonna show itself as we move forward. And but I know this: we have a chance to draft some really good players on our football team here coming up pretty soon, and that's what we're gonna do.
Coach, what's your evaluation of tight end Gary Barnidge, and how might his role change under your offensive scheme?
My evaluation of him: he's a tremendous football player. The guy's a Pro Bowl player this year. He's on our football team, and I'm looking forward to working with him. I can't wait to see a lot of these guys on April 4th and get an opportunity to share my vision for our organization with him. But again, he had a sensational season, and I don't see him going backwards at all. I see him even getting better and playing really well for us.
You have 4 players whose contracts are up, who have been starters for several years on this team you take over. How do you feel about the fact that it looks like they're leaving free agency?
Well, you know how these contracts are written. They have an opportunity to do that. You know, that's their right. And I understand that. But, you know, we love to have them all back. But we also know it's got to be the right fit for us. And, you know, if for some reason they decide not to come back, it's going to open up another opportunity for someone to come in. And again, we have to build this football team the right way as we move forward. As I said earlier, we want to make sure that we have a sustainable football team, one that can be really good, not just this year, but for years to come. You know, there's no quick fixes in the National Football League. So how it all unfolds as we move forward is going to unfold. But I promise you this: we're going to put a football team out there that will compete and that will play hard. And I think that's what's important.
With Dee Podesta obviously in charge of the organization, and you've been asked about this and you've thought about it certainly, how do you combine analytics and tape to make it just a holistic approach where both things work together?
Right. I think the analytics part that I think everybody's so concerned about it, to me, I'm not. I think it's just another tool. It's another tool for us to use in order to make better football decisions as we move forward. It's not going to drive our organization. It's not going to be the only thing we do to make decisions. I think it's just another opportunity for us to use something that maybe thinks outside of the box to see if we can become better than what we've been in the past. And I think that's outstanding. And I think it's a great thought by our organization.
Hugh, when you talk about the free agents that might leave, how important is it to keep guys who have already been here and shown they can play without creating extra holes on a roster that already has holes?
Absolutely. I would love to keep them all. But again, they have to want to stay. You know, it goes both ways. You know, that's just the way it is in the National Football League. You know, the contracts are written that way. Well, I'd love to have them all back. Yes, I would. But at the same time, I know they have a right to do what's best for them and their families. And then, to me, if that happens, I don't want to sit here and say, okay, well, we're going to give the season away. What we have to do is go find players to fit in those particular positions so we have an opportunity to move forward. And we'll do that if it does go in that direction.
Hugh, have you got any indication from, have you met with all the four or five main guys? You get an indication that they all went back, or some of the guys, can you tell, without saying names, that they're looking down?
Well, I've had some great conversations with that group, and I feel very comfortable that they want to be a part of what we're trying to accomplish. You know, they are the cornerstones of this football team and who have helped build it to where it is today. Now, that being said, they're not excited about where it is today, but I think they're excited about where it can go from here on. Now, I think that's the most important part, and I would love to have everybody that we draft from here on, that they stay and become a Cleveland Brown and be a Cleveland Brown. And I think that's important. But again, the way contracts are written, as you guys all know, players have an opportunity to kind of exercise their right to do what they want to do as well.
Hugh, what is Johnny Manziel's status as a 4:01 p.m. March 9th?
I'm sorry?
What is Johnny Manziel's status as a 4:01 p.m. March 9th?
Well, let me say this about that. I mean, I knew that question was coming, but I think we all know and understand that we made a statement 2 weeks ago about Johnny Manziel, and I'm going to stand by that. And I think his future on our team will be addressed here pretty soon. But let me say this: I think it's really important that obviously there were some people involved in the situation that happened, and I feel very bad about those things as they do happen. But I want to make sure we all understand that that behavior will not be tolerated as we move forward. And that's all I want to say about it. I want to leave it at that. Our organization is going to take a stand, and we're going to move on from those kind of situations as we move forward.